1 week ago, the football world had already buried Cristiano Ronaldo. They'd written the obituary, hit publish, and moved on. He was finished. He was a statue. He was a 41-year-old ghost who couldn't do it anymore, dragging Portugal down on the one stage he'd never conquered. Pundits said it, newspapers printed it, millions of people online laughed at him. His World Cup, they decided, was over before it had even started. And then, on Tuesday night in Houston, Cristiano Ronaldo walked up to a television camera, stared straight down the lens, and screamed two words, "I'm back." So, let's talk about the most Ronaldo thing imaginable. A man taking the entire World Cup, the media, and every single person who counted him out and shoving it all right back in their faces. But to understand how good this revenge felt, you have to go back to how dark the week before it actually was, because Ronaldo's World Cup started as a nightmare. Picture the scene. All around him, the other giants of the game were putting on a show. Lionel Messi opened his tournament with a hat trick against Algeria, then scored twice more against Austria to become the all-time leading scorer in World Cup history. Kylian Mbappe scored twice against Senegal. Erling Haaland scored twice on his debut. Every aging legend and every young superstar walked onto the biggest stage and delivered immediately, emphatically. The message was clear. The greats show up. And then there was Ronaldo. Portugal's opener against the Democratic Republic of Congo, 90 minutes, and he was, by every account, a void, a non-presence. He drifted on the fringes, barely touched the ball, recorded the fewest touches of any Portugal outfield player who played the full game, and didn't manage a single shot on target. Portugal, one of the favorites, were held to a humiliating 1-1 draw by a team playing their first World Cup match in 52 years, and the man who was supposed to be their finisher couldn't even jump for a cross. One writer described it as watching a brilliant frontman who could no longer get around the stage and just couldn't hit the high notes anymore. The drought was the headline because that Congo game extended Ronaldo's run to 10 consecutive games at major tournaments, World Cups, and Euros without scoring. 10. For context, that should sting. In the same period since Ronaldo's last tournament goal, Messi had scored 11. The greatest goal scorer in the history of football, closing in on 1,000 career goals, looked completely lost on the World Cup stage. And the knives came out. A Portuguese journalist wrote in The Guardian that Ronaldo's legacy now risked being seriously tarnished, asking whether he'd be remembered as the boy from Madeira who conquered world football, or as an aging superstar who tried to defy time and ended up a shadow of himself. The entire build-up to Portugal's second match wasn't about tactics or the opponent. Music. It was one question asked over and over. Should Ronaldo even be starting? Is he done? Ronaldo himself later admitted just how brutal it was. "It was a difficult, dark week," he said. "It felt like I'd already retired from football." So, that's the setup. A legend on the floor, the whole world standing over him, laughing. And Tuesday night was his answer. The roar when Ronaldo led Portugal out for the warm-up in Houston matched the noise Messi got 24 hours earlier in Dallas. That is how badly these fans wanted to see him do it. And it nearly went wrong immediately. Inside 4 minutes, he was found unmarked and got his footwork wrong, fluffing the chance. You could almost feel the dread. Here we go again. The fans just sang his name louder, and in the 6th minute, he repaid them. João Cancelo cut the ball back, and Ronaldo, timing his run to the near post like the predator he has always been, wrapped his right foot around it and smashed it home. The drought was over. 10 games of misery gone in one swing of his boot. He sprinted not to the corner flag, but straight to Portugal's substitutes. A pointed show of unity after a week of whispers about the squad, and then gave the crowd the celebration they'd been starving for. The Seu NRG Stadium erupted. He wasn't done. Just before halftime, Bruno Fernandes, who had just broken the Premier League assist record, slid a perfectly weighted pass through the Uzbekistan defense, and Ronaldo finished first time, low and precise into the far corner, a classic from his Real Madrid prime. The run, the point to show where he wanted it, the cold finish, 3-0. And there it was again, that trademark celebration. Portugal ran out 5-0 winners, and Ronaldo, grinning ear to ear, turned to the camera and let it all out. "I'm back. I'm back." But the goals weren't even the whole revenge. The history was, because with that first strike, Ronaldo became the first player in the entire history of the World Cup, man or woman, music, to score at 6 different tournaments. 6. 2006, 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, and now 2026, 20 years apart. Not even Messi can claim that, because Messi blanked in South Africa in 2010. Ronaldo stands completely alone. He's also now Portugal's all-time leading World Cup scorer, passing the great Eusebio. And at 41, he's the oldest outfield player ever to start a World Cup match. The man they said was too old to matter just set a record that requires you to be both ancient and brilliant at the same time. And when reporters tried to get cute with him afterward, the revenge turned spicy. Asked why he yelled, "I'm back," Ronaldo didn't soften it. Just so they don't forget. Just so they don't forget. Then he laid out exactly what the week had done to him. It's already 23 years I've been a professional, and whenever things don't go well, it's Cristiano, he's finished, he's old. Well, it was a good response. And when a reporter, Music, dared to mention Messi's name, Ronaldo simply shut him down and turned away. Next question. Another tried again on his way out, and he flicked his arm dismissively over his shoulder. I don't care about Messi. Mbappe also scored, even crushed and counted out a week earlier that competitive fire would not concede a single inch, not even to the man who just become the record holder. Now, let's be honest, because the channel doesn't do blind hype. This was Uzbekistan, a team ranked 58th in the world, playing their first World Cup with a defense that looked overawed. Ronaldo will not silence the real questions about his starting place by beating up on first-time qualifiers. He still doesn't offer what Messi offers in build-up. Against Austria, Messi was credited with 42 passes and a dozen creative involvements. While Ronaldo's game remains almost entirely about one thing, putting the ball in the net. But here's the point. Putting the ball in the net is the one thing they all said he couldn't do anymore. And he did it twice with the timing, the movement, and the precision of a man 15 years younger. The finisher's instinct hasn't gone anywhere. Even his rivals tipped their hat. Uzbekistan's coach, Fabio Cannavaro, a World Cup winner himself, said it should silence the people who mock Ronaldo for playing in Saudi Arabia. That to come to a World Cup at 41 and play like that proves he's still hungry. When you play against Ronaldo, he said, you know you can't leave even 1 centimeter. He will take advantage. And his own manager, Roberto Martinez, called him a perfect captain through a week of brickbats, a man who took every hit the media threw and answered with 2 goals and a record. So, here's where it all lands. 7 days ago, the World Cup laughed at Cristiano Ronaldo. It called him finished, a statue, a relic clinging to a stage that had moved past him. And his response wasn't a quote or an apology or a graceful acceptance of the end. It was a record nobody in history had ever set. 2 vintage goals, a roar into a camera, and a flat refusal to even discuss the rival they kept shoving in his face. Whether this is a genuine springboard for Portugal or just one glorious night against weak opposition, that part we'll learn soon enough. But for one night in Houston, the most criticized man in football reminded everyone exactly who he is. The world wrote him off. He made it eat the words on live television, real comeback or just a good night against Uzbekistan. Where do you stand? Tell me below and follow along if you want to see whether the dark week or the Houston night was the real Ronaldo. But here's what nobody's asking yet, and it's the question that actually matters going forward. What happens next? Because Portugal's group stage is almost done. The knockout rounds are coming. And that's where legacies aren't just tested, they're either cemented or shattered completely. Uzbekistan was the appetizer. The real meal hasn't even been served yet. Portugal's path to the final is loaded. France could be waiting, Brazil could be waiting, England could be waiting. Teams with defenses that won't stand there overawed. Managers who have watched every single Ronaldo clip from the last 3 years and built game plans specifically to deny him that 1 yard of space he needs. That's the real exam, and Ronaldo knows it better than anyone. Because here's a fact that the celebration couldn't erase. Ronaldo has never won the World Cup. That's the one trophy missing from a cabinet that has everything else. 5 Ballon d'Or awards, 5 Champions League titles, Euros, Nations League. A career so decorated it makes other legends look ordinary. And yet, the World Cup. The one competition where the planet watches as one. The one stage where Messi finally completed his own legacy in Qatar. That trophy has always been the unfinished sentence at the end of Ronaldo's story. And now, at 41, in what every serious football mind agrees is his absolute last chance, he's here. He's fit, he's scored, and he's angry. That might be the most dangerous combination in football. Because Ronaldo, angry and motivated, is a different animal entirely from Ronaldo, comfortable and celebrated. The week of humiliation, the media burial, the online mockery, he absorbed all of it. He said himself, the dark week felt like he'd already retired. And then he came out and did what he's always done when the world writes him off. He made it personal. He made it fuel. Roberto Martinez, Portugal's manager, has a decision to make now that's bigger than just a lineup. He has a team full of brilliant modern footballers. Bruno Fernandes pulling strings, Bernardo Silva creating chaos, Rafael Leão with pace that terrifies fullbacks. A squad that, on paper, doesn't need to be built around a 41-year-old. But he also has something no tactical system can manufacture. A man on a mission. A captain who has turned personal humiliation into a burning public obsession with winning. And players who feed off that energy in the dressing room in ways that don't show up in any stat sheet. The question Portugal are carrying into the knockout stage isn't whether Ronaldo can score against elite defenses. The question is whether this team, with this captain, in this tournament, has the belief to go all the way. And right now, after Houston, that belief looks different than it did a week ago. Ronaldo didn't just score 2 goals on Tuesday night, he changed the energy of an entire squad. He reminded every player in that dressing room that the stage doesn't matter, the doubters don't matter, and that when it counts, their captain will show up. That is worth more than any statistic. Now let's zoom out one final time, because this story isn't just about football, it's about what it means to refuse to accept the narrative that other people write for you. At 41, most athletes are giving retirement speeches, writing books, launching podcasts. The natural arc bends toward goodbye, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Ronaldo has never once bent toward anything other than forward. The drive that made him run extra sprints at 16 when every other kid went home. The obsession with his body, with preparation, with marginal gains that his teammates at every club have described with a mix of admiration and disbelief. That didn't switch off because he turned 40. It intensified because the clock gave it a deadline. And maybe that's the real story of Houston. Not the goals, not the record, not the "I'm back" into the camera. It's the image of a man who has won everything there is to win in club football, who didn't have to be here, who could have retired to a palace in Riyadh and let the legend coast on its own momentum, and chose instead to put himself through the scrutiny, the pressure, and the very real risk of public failure on the biggest stage in sport, because he still wants it, because the fire still burns. Whether Portugal go on to lift that trophy or fall short in the quarterfinals, one thing is already settled. Cristiano Ronaldo came to the 2026 World Cup, stood in the fire that everybody else lit, and didn't flinch. He walked through it, turned to the camera, and reminded the world that the obituary was premature. 1 week ago, they buried him. He just climbed out of the grave, and the World Cup is only getting started.